The topic I chose for this year's John Main seminar is about the crisis of our democracies. I want to look for the deeper reasons for this. In my opinion, the problem with our democracies are a translation of the crisis of our society itself. I wonder to what extent we are still a society, a group of people that live and work together. What unites or connects people in a time of great individualization? Question mark. You don't have a society just because you live on the same territory or speak the same language or because you have the same enemy or because you consider your own culture or religion superior to that of migrants. How do we bring back more fraternity, more solidarity, more love among us, more shared values and values of sharing? Again, question mark. Only then can a democracy work. Democracy needs dialogue, compromise, conversation, respect, a sense of citizenship, a sense of community, a sense of general well-being. The opposite, by the way, of social media practices. So the crisis of democracy refers to a crisis of values. Positive values will help to transform fear into hope. And this fear arises because many are too focused on themselves. Isolated individuals distrust other people, and distrust creates fear of the other, quickly turning the other into an enemy. A number of individuals thus become even more lonely and more isolated, a vicious circle. Minds and hearts also need to be spiritually appeased, and meditation can help here. It is paradoxical that a seemingly solitary practice of repeating a mantra in silence transforms people. Their ego diminishes and they become more open to others. They become stronger as persons. They are being empowered spiritually. A seemingly inactive practice gives new energy to actively engage with others. The mantra pushes away fears and can make way for hope. Of course, meditation is not the only way to greater solidarity, but the contemplative path helps. As I said, democracy needs that sense of belonging to a community. A revival of democracy cannot be achieved without this sense of community. New forms of dialogue, of participation at every level of government can also help to revive democracy from within and from bottom up. Dear friends, I try to convince you of this. There is nevertheless a way forward. There is hope. And that will be my story in the John Main seminar in November. Thank you so much.
So I think the seminar is really important for today because we live in a period of democratic crisis. I live in Brazil, and our government is putting democracy in risk. And this context in Brazil has generated polarization, and we live today in a culture of hate. We need to rescue human rights, which guarantee that human life is not destroyed. And for this, you need dialogue, active listen, and to rescue our capacity to pay attention to the other, to our capacity to love. Moreover, with the constant scandals of corruption and abuse of power, I realize that many young people have distanced themselves from this issue, from politics. So you need to dialogue about democracy, and in an open and a sincere way. Yeah, and we young people, we need to understand our role. It's time to be silenced. It's time to perceive the whole. It's time to reflect. It's time to contemplate everything. Yeah, but it's also time to act. Yes, but not a reactive action. Yeah, but a contemplative action, and an action that comes from within our hearts, and not just a reaction to this confused world that we are living in. So that's why I think it's so important to participate in the John Mann seminar.
I think many of us are aware of the positives and advantages of living in a democratic society. So, what is our response to our world at this time of crisis? As Jesus says, love one another as I have loved you. I would suggest that our collective contemplative response can be to understand the meaning of democracy at a deeper level. I believe we as meditators have an important role to play in our world today, to be attentive to the other and to find a common ground in resolving our differences as a human race.
My name is May, and I'm a meditator and also the book reviews editor for the WCCM. I think a seminar on democracy is invaluable right now because it goes to the heart of the gospel. In the gospel's concern for others, in its directive to love our neighbour, it should provoke us to ask, what are the conditions for human flourishing, both physically and spiritually? And how do we create these conditions for ourselves and for others?
The theme for the John Mann seminar this year is very apt for our current times. Democracy is facing its most serious crisis in decades. The right to choose leaders in free and fair elections, electing politicians who are accountable to the people and who will not abuse their power, curtailing the freedom of the press, or trampling on the rights of minorities. These values that democracy embodies are under assault in recent times and are fast disappearing globally. I am glad that these issues will be tackled and discussed in the upcoming John Mann seminar.
Hi, my name is Nick Scrimenti, and I am from the United States, and right now I am living at Bonneveau. And this seminar is coming at a really important time in human history. We're faced with two really major existential threats in the form of climate change and the threat of nuclear weapons. And these two challenges in particular intersect with long-standing affronts to human justice in the form of racism, sexism, xenophobia, etc. And so the challenge for us is to figure out how our political system can meet these challenges. And right now, we're failing in meeting them. So for this seminar, I think we can try to ask, what role can contemplation play in helping us to meet these enormous challenges? And I think through our discussion and through our dialogue, we can hopefully come to some fruitful answers to those questions.
My name is Mallory Hibble, and I was fortunate enough to be able to visit Bonneveau for a couple of weeks this summer. And I think that the seminar is valuable for the world in this time of crises because it allows us to see our hurting, broken world more clearly. This is similar to the clarity that comes from the practice of meditation. In meditation, we are able to begin to loosen our grip on our ego-centered view of the world and begin to live from a place of stillness and silence in which love exists unconditionally. At least that's been my experience in meditation. And when we are guided by seminars such as this in the practice of meditation to live from this place of love, we are better able to reckon with the climate, human, and spiritual crises in which the world is currently entangled. I believe that this will allow us in our political, spiritual, and material lives to begin to live from a place not of blame or guilt, but of compassion for our fellow beings, and to be able to come up with some solutions for some of these crises. Thus, it is through living in this way that we can begin to find our way out of these crises and into a more loving epoch of time for all beings. For these reasons, I feel that this seminar is more important now than ever and would highly encourage all to join.
The ultimate responsibility of a government is to take actions, introduce policies that enhance the welfare of society. And democracy, perhaps more than any other form of government, basically maximizes the chances that governments will actually do that. Why? Because democracy provides a form of accountability. If governments are unsuccessful or misbehave, society votes them out. The difficulty is that democracy needs to be protected. It needs to be protected also from itself. Many of the darkest chapters of history have involved dictators who have come to power through the democratic process. Democracy is a constant challenge in terms of effective implementation. It needs to be worked on continuously. And to the extent to which this seminar focuses on both the promise of democracy, but also the challenges that democracy presents, I think it will make a valuable contribution.